Yeah, so when she sleeps, her little bum floats up in the air.
Hello, I'm John Rossi. I'm a touring drummer with a passion for animal conservation. When I'm on the road, I spend as much time as possible visiting zoos, aquariums, and conservation organizations. Now, I want to share those places with you. I'll be talking to keepers, vets, conservationists, anyone who can help me in my mission of connecting my people to animals through their people. Join me on my Rossifari. Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to the podcast, and I yet again didn't think of a joke for here. The Rossifari podcast. Yeah, you know what, y'all? Almost every time that I record one of these, I get all hyped up, and then I realize that I don't have a joke there. And then I pause and I stop and I think about what joke I'm going to put in there, and I really spend time on it. And no, that's your joke. That is your joke. I am a joke. I hate myself. No, I'm kidding. All is well. I'm hilarious. It's fun. Okay, cool. So welcome to the podcast. And if this is your first episode of Rossifari, I'm sorry for that mini meltdown, but I'm recording this on my last day in California, and I'm leaving to go to my next gig in Arizona, and I'm sad, but I've had a great time, so I'm happy and everything is awesome. So yay, but also I'm leaving, so boo. And so I am just on a roller coaster of emotions, as the kids say. Apparently no child has ever said that, but that's okay. I stand by it. And, you know, I got to tell you, even though I'm now leaving California, if you remember from our previous episodes, we're going through the road trip on the way out here, and I'm so excited about the facility that I am bringing you today because it's pretty new, and a lot of you may have never heard of it, and I think that's really exciting. But first, some quick housekeeping. Don't forget that there is merch available, as well as all the things that you look for in your podcast websites. I don't really know what that is, but whatever, at rossifari.com. You can support the pod by going to patreon.com/rossifari, and for as little as $3 a month, you can help support the work that I'm doing, and, always greatly appreciated when somebody signs up as a new patron. So hop on board, y'all, and then make sure you're following along at Rossifari on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, at Rossifari Pod on TikTok, you know, that app that I never open and should probably get back to, but hey, whatever. And make sure you're subscribed, make sure you're following, give us ratings, give us reviews, all the things that every single podcast host asks for. I'm now asking you to do it as well, because I am a podcast host. See, it all makes sense. Okay. But enough being shot out of a cannon about all of that. Now I need to be shot out of a cannon because I am so excited to tell you about today's episode. I am bringing you my interview with Erin Clark of the St. Louis Aquarium. Now, those of you who are in the know may have just paused because you expected to hear the word zoo at the end of that. See, for a long time, St. Louis didn't have an aquarium. But in 2019, a beautiful, new, wonderful, state-of-the-art facility opened up in St. Louis, the St. Louis Aquarium, and it is truly special. And then COVID hit, and it had to close for a long time. So even though the aquarium has been around since 2019, it's still really new and still kind of finding its footing and getting its visitors and its members and all that stuff. But the people who do go and do find it are in for a heck of a treat. I cannot think of a single facility that I have ever been to that integrates technology with their actual exhibits as well as the St. Louis Aquarium does. There's this awesome little train ride thing that you can go on at the beginning of it. Has nothing to do with seeing living animals, but while I normally don't like those things that much, this one was really cool. And not just because it's narrated by St. Louis's own John Goodman, but it was really fun. I had a really good time with it. And then when it gets to the exhibits, there's some really cool stuff going on. So yeah, you're going to hear about those things. You're going to hear about what goes into building an aquarium, because how often do we get to talk to somebody about building a brand new facility? So far, the answer has been it never happens. And now it has. You're going to learn about what really went into taking a classic building that had nothing to do with wildlife and turning it into a state-of-the-art aquarium. And oh yeah, you're also definitely going to hear about some cool animals. You're going to hear about Lord Stanley, the blue lobster, Quasi and Tsunami, the sea turtles. You're going to hear about a tamandua. You're going to hear about a sloth that used to live at Southwick's Zoo with our friends at Southwick's and is now at the St. Louis Aquarium. There's a really cute story behind the whole thing, and I really think you're going to love it. And of course, we're going to talk about, your standard aquarium animals. So there is a lot going on in this episode. But first, before we get to all of that, let's get to an ad, shall we? Today's episode is brought to you by Daydreamer Studios. Do you have stories and expertise to share with the world? Have you ever thought about starting your own podcasts? There's no better time to start than now with the help of a trusted production partner. Daydreamer Studios is a full-service production company that takes all the stress off your plate. You can focus on creating engaging content while they focus on recording, editing, audio engineering, hosting, and publishing on 22 platforms. Log into the advanced remote system with one click, and the Daydreamer team will be on the other end, ready for you to record everything you have to say. Owned and operated by Daydreamer Network, Daydreamer Studios continues on the company's mission to empower storytellers of all kinds by making podcasting accessible to all. For more information and current promotions, visit daydreamernetwork.com/studios. All right, man. Now we're going to take it down where it's better, where it's wetter, under the... No. All right. First of all, bad accent. Second of all, Disney lawyers were already banging on my door when I started that. So without further ado, here is my interview with Erin Clark of the St. Louis Aquarium. All right. So tell me who you are, where we are, and what you do here.
My name is Erin Clark. I am the Director of Animal Projects for Zoo Oceanarium Group, and we are currently at the St. Louis Aquarium at Union Station.
Which is like a new aquarium.
Yeah, super new.
Super new. Okay,
Opened, 2019.
Right, okay. So at some point in 2019, I'm on tour, as I do, and we're going through St. Louis. And I look out my window, and I see St. Louis Aquarium at Union Station, and I go, the hell, that doesn't exist. There's no such thing. And I instantly hopped on the interwebs, and you didn't exist yet, but it was all being built and stuff. And what an eye-catching awning, for the record.
Yes.
Hard to miss. Yeah. So tell me the story. We'll get to you, I promise.
That's fine.
But tell me the story of why this is here and how this happened.
Yeah, so, it's a great story. The aquarium is located in Union Station, so it's a historic landmark in St. Louis. It is originally a train station. Because of Union Station, St. Louis was able to host the 1904 World's Fair, the National Democratic Convention, and the Olympics in the same year because it could handle the volume of traffic coming in. It's huge. And it was very popular. And then, of course, train travel changes and all of that. And in the 80s, the property was redesigned as a festival marketplace. So part of the train shed, this huge structure that all the trains would pull in under, was enclosed. And you had essentially an indoor shopping mall. Again, that kind of fell on the wayside. But what you also have is the head of the head house for the train station. This train station where everybody would come in was turned into a gorgeous hotel. So flash forward 2010 maybe, and the owners of the property, Lodging Hospitality Management, buy Union Station Complex for the hotel. They've got 11 acres to figure out what to do with on top of it. So then they start thinking about it, right? What's missing from St. Louis? They go through a number of iterations and they realize it's one of the few larger cities that doesn't have an aquarium in it. So then they start benchmarking. They look at, tenanting aquarium, having somebody come in and just do their own. And then they went, but St. Louis deserves its own kind of unique space. So they decided to do it themselves. And in order for a hotel group to get into taking care of fish, they said, we need somebody that can help us with this. And so they found a local architect firm, PJV, and then they reached out to us, Zoo Oceanarium Group. And so we started this journey back in 2017, whole design concept and everything. And it was tricky. How do you build an aquarium inside of an old train station and honor the history that's there, but not make it weird? And I think we nailed it.
All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
Check out the new nature podcast that everyone is talking about, Birds of a Feather Talk Together. If you like Radiolab or Planet Earth, you'll love Birds of a Feather Talk Together. Escape from the daily grind into the world of birds. 2 experts and 2 amateurs talk about a different species every week. Recently, we talked about the osprey, burrowing owls, roadrunners, pigeons, giant hummingbirds, house wrens, sandhill cranes, and so many more. We have a lot of fun every week. Learn more about the incredible birds around you and some that you didn't know existed. Birds of a Feather Talk Together. You're going to like these birds. I guarantee it.
I mean, from what I've seen so far, yes.
Yeah.
It's like pulling into like almost like a theme park type area, but except I have to say that like in an educational and conservation-y kind of way. Like all of the stuff around the aquarium is very appropriate. I go to a lot of these. I'm a big fan of the signage, of everything that I've seen so far. But there's also that like anticipatory thing of like, I'm turning into an event now. And there's the big Ferris wheel, and there are trains. There are like still trains.
Absolutely,
and I think as a tribute to the old hobos that used to ride trains, as soon as I got here, some guy came up to me and asked me for money, and I assume that was part of the
Absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Yes,
yeah. No, I can't. It's actually quite beautiful here. But it's really it's an event. And granted, I get excited about animal stuff. But as I was pulling in, it felt like an event was about to happen.
Yeah,
and that's really cool.
That's awesome to hear. Thank you. So the idea, we started with the aquarium, and then you still have a lot of acreage here. So what else can you do? And the goal was to turn it into a family destination right in the heart of downtown St. Louis. And so we do the attraction. The aquarium is one of 6 attractions on property, in addition to a hotel, in addition to restaurants. So you can come down and spend the whole day. And they were very intentional with the design of it. So again, staying true to that historic train station and the beautiful architecture that we have here, but also creating something that is uniquely St. Louis, which was super important.
Yeah, no, and St. Louis has such unique character, and there are so many cool things here. Whether it's the baseball stadium or the former NFL stadium, some of the best restaurants I've ever eaten at in my time here. The Arch, obviously, is such a huge thing. The museum, what is the museum's name?
City Museum.
Yeah, City Museum. City Museum is the coolest thing ever.
It is unbelievable. Yeah.
No. And even here, I feel like you capture a lot of that vibe in terms of, like you said, there's still the beautiful old architecture. There's the aquarium. But then as I was waiting to meet y'all, I looked up, and it was like an indoor treetops exploration thing, and somebody was shooting past me in the air. Like it's a really cool, really funky use of space.
Yeah, awesome. We're so happy to hear that.
So tell me about this group that you work for. World Ocean Group, you said?
Zoo Oceanarium Group.
Zoo, I was so wrong on that.
Yeah, no, we took 2 words, mushed it together, to make it probably an intimidating word when you look at it, for sure. So Zoo Oceanarium Group is actually celebrating their 10-year anniversary this year. And so it started actually over in Dubai, in the Middle East. So the idea was to take zoo and aquarium and science center specialists, everybody from the divers and the biologists, the animal care team, up through your operations team, and essentially create a company that can operate zoos, aquariums, and science centers for those people that want to do it, like a hotel group, but it's not within their business model, right? So we started over in the Middle East. And so I was there with them for 5 years, and then moved back to the U.S. to work specifically on the St. Louis Aquarium project here. So
Okay. So can we talk about your time over there a little bit?
Oh, absolutely.
Like, tell me what that was like, because I've never been to Dubai, although I was supposed to be, and I'm very sad about COVID. But
You'll get there.
only for that reason, though. That's the only thing that COVID has wreaked havoc on for anyone.
No,
So,
exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's been pretty bland.
Yeah,
quiet.
pretty chill. Just that one thing. Yeah. No, but tell me about your time over there. What it was like living there. All the things.
Yeah,
That's fascinating.
It was amazing. So I'm originally from New England, but I don't like the cold, which
Not
is
great.
not something that a lot of people from New England will admit to.
Here's the real question, though. Please tell me that you don't actually like Dunkin' coffee more than any other coffee.
So I don't drink coffee.
Okay.
I get nostalgic for the logo, but I don't frequent a lot of coffee shops. You know, I'm a 12-year-old at heart, so it's hot chocolate in the morning for me. And so
Wow.
it's, yep.
Okay, I can respect that.
Naturally full of energy.
You were starting to lose me when you said you don't drink coffee, but then you got me back with hot chocolate. We're good. Like, I was about to end the interview, but hot chocolate.
I mean, if there's
I'm here
anything
for
that
it.
could surpass coffee,
Yeah,
right?
No, that's solid.
Yeah.
That's solid.
So,
All right, very good.
So it was amazing. Moved over there. I think it helped too. This is the one thing. Americans don't use the metric system, right?
Oh, gosh, we need to.
We have no idea what it means when somebody says the temperature in Celsius, which made it really easy for me because I didn't realize that 46 degrees Celsius was super hot. Like, once I did the conversion, my brain went, you're not supposed to be alive right now. I mean, you're pushing like 115 degrees.
Right.
But I moved over there in the summer. And so it was kind of a baptism by fire. You know, you get through it.
Literally at that temperature.
Exactly, yeah. But I loved it. You're also dealing with near 100% humidity. So you walk out and your glasses fog and your skin immediately gets condensation on it. But there was just something about it. The Middle East, 70% of the population in Abu Dhabi and Dubai are not from there.
Oh, wow.
So you're working with people from all over the world, which is very cool. It's a very different experience than you're going to get a lot of other places. And you have the opportunity where it is so centrally kind of located to travel. So did a lot of traveling while I was over there, which was fantastic. But it was nice to be able to, I'm a huge geek fact about me. I love cows.
Okay.
Like driving down the street, I'll get excited when we see a cow on the side of the road.
Yep.
Then you go to the Middle East and there are camels. They're just desert cows. It is great. So it was really nice. I have to say, a question I would get asked a lot is a female over in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. I never had any challenges over there. Everyone was super respectful. And so it was just a really nice opportunity for me I felt I grew a lot personally, a lot professionally. You know, I had grown up and lived in the same area my whole life. And then I moved to the other side of the world. And so you have to kind of rip that Band-Aid off pretty quickly and learn a lot about yourself. So I love that I did it, met some amazing friends. But I'm also happy to be able to take those experiences back here.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense and is proof that you are a badass. So nice job with that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So let's back it off and let's find out, how you became such a badass. So born in New England.
Yes.
Right. All right. What got you to where you are now? Tell me about your journey, education. What made you decide to do this kind of thing? Did you get hands-on experience with animals? Let's talk about all that stuff.
Yeah. So I don't know why. Growing up, I always wanted to work with marine mammals, specifically dolphins. That was it. And I don't know where that came from. I grew up in Massachusetts, but I was about an hour and a half away from the ocean. So it's not like I spent a lot of time there. But I always wanted to do it. I made a change when I was in second grade and I wanted to become an oceanographer because I realized I knew what that word was. That's a long word, as a kid.
Solid.
And then I realized that I wasn't going to have a lot of the hands-on interaction with the animals that I was looking for. So then I went back to being a marine mammal trainer. And that was my whole goal. So when I was in high school, I actually didn't go to my town high school. I went to I kind of school choiced out and did a trade school it was an agricultural high school. It's essentially a trade school for farmers.
Okay.
And so half of your day are academic classes and then the other half are agricultural classes. And I focused on marine biology, took some, and then you have a minor in like vet tech, but you are hands-on doing animal, and because I was in the marine program, I had to learn how to plumb. Because at some point, if you are dealing with water and and habitats, you need to learn how to do a little bit of plumbing.
Right. Yeah.
So it was a pretty amazing program for a high school.
I think that's what more like high school should be like. Like well-rounded education is great and all, but also like you leave school knowing, what a tangent is, but not how to balance a checkbook.
Yes.
I don't know. I struggle with that sometimes,
Yeah. So it was a great high school. I mean, it was geared for a lot of people that would go kind of directly into it, maybe didn't go to college. But I did. I went to UMass Dartmouth. So I took a biology program there. I intentionally didn't take the marine biology program. And in my head, I was brilliant. This was a brilliant decision for me. And it ended up working out okay. But my fear was that if I got a degree in marine biology, like it's hard to get into the industry. Sure. There's a lot of people that want to do it. So I was afraid that I wasn't going to be able to get that like filler job that you get in between. So I took a biology degree. So I got to take all the good classes to me, and I didn't have to take like the biology of algae class, which just at the time was not, high on the priority level. But after I graduated, I took an internship at the New England Aquarium.
Oh,
so cool.
So cool.
I was super lucky to get it. And I remember getting the call on my birthday.
Oh, nice.
We were out to dinner for my birthday and I got a call or I got an email that we're going to do an interview. And I was like, yes, like, everything is aligning. I'm going to get this. So I was I did an internship with their marine mammal department. And the September after I graduated, I was hired as a, entry-level marine mammal trainer. And
nice.
I was there for 10 years and it was amazing.
Okay. So I realize that sea turtles are not mammals.
No.
I am aware of that. But please tell me that you know
I know
Myrtle
where you're going.
and the
Absolutely.
team. And talk to me about Myrtle because I haven't had anyone from New England on yet. So,
So
yes.
Myrtle is amazing. She is, there is so much personality there, right? Myrtle is a adult female green sea turtle. She has been with the aquarium since their opening in the 70s, still there today. And as you saw, hanging out in their giant ocean tank in the center. And she runs that place.
The queen of the aquarium.
Absolutely. And what was really cool is even though our department was focused on marine mammals, right? We were working with the seals and the sea lions. We also did work with animals within the aquarium itself. So our curators spent a lot of time working on a study with Myrtle to identify shape. They were doing a hearing study, I think, at the time when I was there. So at what decibel can she hear? And is it directional? And so it was just so neat to be able to do that because you look at, and sea turtles are amazing animals, but you look at animals and you're like, you have a hard time relating to them at times because they don't look like you, right? But they're unbelievable. Like because of that program, I got to do some training with lobsters, which is like so bizarre, right? Like, but we were able to do it. We work with, year-old ones, which are maybe like 2 inches long. Okay. Then we worked with ones that are about 7-year-olds. That's like your 1.5 pound lobster, the ones that you would more commonly see in your everyday life, sure. In the restaurants.
Sure.
And then we also had a 20-pound lobster. And so I was able to work with kind of all three of them. And we were able to identify when, our young lobsters were going to molt because their behavior would just become so sporadic because suddenly their entire body was going to shed its exoskeleton and grow a new one. And I don't know how many people actually believe me when I say that I did this, but there's a video. But the big 20-pound lobster, we were able to get him to discriminate between two shapes. He could identify a shape on his own. So we'd give him two shapes and he would go to the same shape all the time, no matter where I moved it around.
Wow.
And so it was just so cool because you've got an animal that you're like, this thing just crawls around the ocean bottom. Like, how intelligent can they be? And, the trick is just figuring out how they experience the world and how you adapt that, those methods to them. They were just so cool. So, yeah, sorry, we went sea turtles and then went to lobsters.
No, I love all of this. This is what we're here for.
So I was at New England for 10 years. And it was also a really exciting time because when I started, we had California sea lions. And then they were redesigning parts of the aquarium and building what is now the New Balance Marine Mammal Center. outside. And so I went from starting with harbor seals, Atlantic harbor seals, and California sea lions, and we were able to completely introduce a new species, North American fur seals.
Yes,
and so working with those
exciting.
guys are so cool. And so that was just really fun, and a really great opportunity to be a part of. And so it took a lot. It was going to take a lot to get me to go, right, to leave that place. But when you're given the opportunity to kind of just try something new in a completely different part of the world, I had to take it,
And yet I feel like most people wouldn't have, which makes it that much cooler. Honestly,
I know this. There are times where I look back and I'm like, what was I thinking? But it also happened so quickly, that I had like one kind of panic moment when I realized this was happening. And I called my sister and she's like, you're fine. And I'm like, I'm fine. And then we just sold everything in the apartment and, flew halfway around the world.
Amazing.
So very cool.
I love it. And then it was this aquarium that brought you back here, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me what that conversation was like.
So I remember having our first phone call. We were actually sitting, I was sitting with our managing partner and we were in a car park. I think we were in Germany, but we were having a call with the owners of the aquarium trying to figure out what, that process looks like. And again, it was kind of fast. It was very quickly, let's come on over. Let's meet the team. Let's see if this is going to work. Building anything is a very time-intensive process, and you need to make sure that all the partners are going to meld. There are amazing people in every aspect, in any field, but you got to make sure you get just the right team.
Right.
And so we were really fortunate that we were able to join, and then we had an amazing team here. And so I did some travel back and forth that summer. I hadn't officially moved, so I would fly over here for 10 days, and then I fly back to Dubai for 10 days. And then when it was ready, so when we got close to groundbreaking, the managing partner was like, okay, let's back up. I'm like, okie dokie. And, and it was kind of, again, one of those really fast, I think, 2 or 3 weeks, here's when this is going to happen.
Wow.
And so I landed at, I don't know, probably 7 p.m. in St. Louis, went to the hotel, walked down to the supermarket to get something to eat. And I was in a meeting at 8 a.m. the next morning. And it was just, let's do this, so, which was very cool. And then it just kept going. So I remember walking through here when it was the closed mall. And so you're walking through and there's all these shut down stores, but it smells like cookies and you can't figure out why. And then we get upstairs and realize that the only thing that's still open is a Subway upstairs, which is now where our touch pools are.
Okay.
I believe there was a Subway up there and it was still operational because, people of downtown still needed their Subway. So that was really cool. Just to be able to see that whole thing evolve was unbelievable.
Yeah, I bet. So what was your active role as you were here and as things were being developed? What did your day look like?
Yeah, so it was always a little different. My primary role is always to help take, you can design an aquarium any number of ways, but we got to figure out what's going to make the most sense for this area. And for the team that's going to operate it. And so my primary role was to work with the client and help them, the ownership team, help them create this aquarium that they wanted. The design team was taking care of all of that. It's unbelievable watching them take a building and turn it into an aquarium.
I bet.
It's so cool. But it was helping them, everything from ticketing systems and where do the floor drains go? If we decide we want to put a habitat here and maybe we decide we want to do this type of fish, what does that look like? What's the equipment? What is the, material inside of it? What are the water quality parameters? What are the lighting? Because they have to outline all of that equipment to show up in order for us to be able to do that. And so mine was also taking that information, I'd get the questions, I go, great questions. And then I would go find the answers, find the people that, on our team that have that expertise to help give us that information. So it was always a little different. I mean, really early on, it was a lot of, computer work, research, we're building out the website. Where does all that information on the animals come from?
Right,
Where do your hours come from? Where do your, so I don't do, I think, a really great job of outlining just the minutia, but it's it is so exciting to be a part of this that none of it seems boring in even the slightest sense, And then there would be kind of fun things that we could do. So you saw the ropes course when you first walked in. And so we got to help. They were, we're looking at some area over here. And so we got to help find that company to install that. And the mini golf course outside. And so things that maybe aren't not what you'd expect to be dealing with when you first wake up, but in order for the aquarium to succeed, the whole complex has to succeed, right? And so what does that look like?
All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
Hi, this is Kathy Hill from the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. We're all about restoration projects in progress this season on One Lagoon, One Voice. Learn about the great strides the lagoon community is taking to restore and protect the Indian River Lagoon. Each week, we dive deep into discussions with scientists, resource managers, and nonprofit leaders to explore lagoon issues and solutions. From oyster reefs to clam restoration, algae blooms to muck, you'll learn all about the projects we're tackling to bring the Indian River Lagoon back to health. Click the link in the show notes to follow One Lagoon, One Voice, learn about the IRL Council, and explore our unique lagoon.
That's awesome.
It's very cool.
That's so cool. I love that. I'm curious, do you know how much, say, people coming to the aquarium then also go mini golfing versus how many people come mini golfing and then are like, oh, wow, an aquarium and stuff like that? Have you looked at any of that? I'm curious.
Yeah. So I'm very fortunate now that I don't have to crunch a lot of those numbers.
Okay.
We've got some really great people that can tackle that.
Right.
But I do know the aquarium is one of the anchors for the complex, right? And so a lot of people that are coming in, are coming for the aquarium and then realize there are all the other attractions.
Right.
But again, there have got to be plenty of people. I mean, we have a 200-foot observation wheel outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see that when you're driving by.
Hard to miss.
You don't see the doors to the aquarium.
Right.
So I'm sure there are people that are coming in going, I need to get to that wheel. And then, oh my gosh, can you imagine, what is all of this other stuff? And then we have the hotel and all the conventions that happen there as well. So, the aquarium is certainly a draw, but it is not the only unique thing.
The reason I ask is because I've been wondering about that sometimes. I go to a lot of zoos and aquariums, and especially the zoos are usually out in the middle of nowhere. The Toronto Zoo, the first time I went there, I was like, I'm lost. And I was using the GPS and I was right. I was in the middle of nowhere.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden there was a zoo. And that happens a lot. And I've often wondered if it wouldn't make sense to, you got to be careful at a zoo, especially about, not disrupting the animals and stuff.
Yes.
Which an aquarium tends to avoid more because, it's more indoors and all
it's
of that.
more contained.
Yeah. But I was curious, if that is something where tourism could drive more people to the aquarium.
I think we're starting to see it, right, in some of the developments that are coming up lately, in that it's not just an aquarium or it's not just a zoo. It's part of a larger area.
Right.
And again, having to take safety into consideration and all of that. But I think you're starting to see that you want to be able to provide, especially the last few years, people are looking for solid experiences because they've started to appreciate them. I think we've all had to, right? When you don't fully appreciate anything until it's not there anymore.
True.
And so what does that experience look like? And so you can come down and spend a couple hours at an aquarium, or we can give you something that gives you an entire day or a weekend to do. Especially during, holidays, we've got Polar Express that runs out of Union Station. And so you literally have trains that are leaving to head up to the North Pole, which are here somewhere in the vicinity.
Yeah,
and then they're able to come on back. But it's a really nice kind of event for families to be able to come in and do. So I think we're going to see that happening a lot more.
Very cool. I'm going to get yelled at by my audience if I don't get some more animal stuff on here, though. We talked about Myrtle and stuff, and I'm fascinated by all of this. But I need to at least interject, and let's get to the aquarium.
Yeah,
and let's talk about some of the animals there. Tell me about some of the most popular, the coolest things. Just tell me animal things.
Right. So we've got some pretty amazing animals in here. So the aquarium is not the largest facility you're ever going to go to, but the team here does such an amazing job of sharing the stories of every animal that we have. And there are over 13,000 animals in the St. Louis Aquarium. Because of where we're located, we're right at the confluence of two huge rivers, the Missouri and the Mississippi. So we start off telling you the story of the local animals in here. And Missouri has got some cool fish. freshwater fish get a bad rap, right? They're not as flashy. They're more subdued colorations and stuff. But they're beautiful and they're cool. And like paddlefish are like living fossils. These things have been around virtually unchanged since the time of the dinosaurs. And so Mother Nature sorted out perfection a long time ago with them. And you might not realize it when you first look at them because they're kind of unique looking, huge rostrum. But it's super delicate and it helps them. They have terrible eyesight because who needs it when you're in the muddy Missouri River or the Mississippi River? But they can pick up electroreception. I'm messing up that word.
It's time for interrupting John.
She was not messing up that word. Electroreception is the ability to detect weak, naturally occurring electrostatic fields in the environment, and it facilitates the detection of prey or other food sources and objects, and is used by some species as a means of social communication. This includes the paddlefish that she's talking about, and also platypus. Yay, platypus, amongst other animals. Anyway, back to the interview.
But of animals moving around in there. And so they know exactly what's in front of them. And so they're just super cool, especially when they feed. Their mouth opens up and it's like a huge pelican gullet. And so that's really cool. You have the opportunity we're very big on getting your hands wet. Like you need to interact. You're not going to have the same experience if you come here and just waltz through and not stop. This is not just a looking aquarium. This is a doing, feeling, touching aquarium. And so you get to stick your hands in and get your hands tickled by doctor fish. Super cool little fish from, the mountains of Turkey, but they'll come and they'll eat the dead skin off of your hands. And your hands are they feel smoother when you're done with it. And it tickles. It's really sweet.
I've never had that experience.
It's so cool.
I'm going to when we're done here.
Absolutely.
That's really exciting. That's really cool.
It's really neat. It's a little unnerving visually because they're about like an inch and a half long. And you stick your hand in and like 50 to 100 of them come over and are immediately swarming around your hand. And you're like, but if you were to do it with your eyes closed to start, I don't think you'd be as... Like it tickles, but it's not as scary as visually watching all of these things just come swarming to your hand.
Oh, that's so cool, though.
Which is really neat.
It's time for interrupting John.
Okay, y'all. I know I say this like a lot, but that was legitimately one of the strangest and coolest experiences I have ever had with animals. So these doctor fish come swarming, just like was described by Erin there, and they just and they attack your hands and they start eating off your dead skin. And spoiler alert, drummer actively gigging during this time a lot. My hands there was a lot of food. I was a fish buffet is what I'm telling you. And it was crazy to watch. And Erin totally let me hang out for a minute. So like legitimately you could look at my hands before and after and see the effect that these fish had on them. It was crazy. It felt really cool. Did not hurt at all. Was super awesome. And I did get some video of it, which I will post on Instagram and Facebook and all that good stuff. So you can check it out there. But yeah, this was really neat. And for anyone around the St. Louis area, I highly recommend checking this out, doing this, and then maybe saving some money on your monthly manicure, if that's a thing that you do. Is that a thing that people do? I don't know if that's a thing that people do. But anyway, back to the interview.
So we try to focus just as much on freshwater fish, the freshwater environment, as the marine habitats. But, we also have, we have otters, North American river otters, Thatcher, Sawyer, and Finn.
Okay.
They were named by our extended St. Louis aquarium family. So we had a naming contest. Pretty fitting for the area, I think. But you also have the opportunity to interact with animals that rivers and oceans are important to everybody, right?
Yes.
you don't have to just live in them to have them impact you. And so there are a lot of terrestrial animals that you'll find here as well. Everything from, reptiles. We've got snakes and bearded dragons and, tortoises. We've got a sloth. We've got a lesser tamandua.
Oh, yeah. Tamandua here.
We do.
I am obsessed with tamanduas.
Yes.
They are
super
so cool. Who's your tamandua?
Annie.
Annie, tell me about Annie. All right, we'll be back after this quick break.
Animals are taking center stage in research, not just as objects for human benefit, but as beings with rich histories and geographies. Join me, Claudia Herzenfelder, on the Animal Turn podcast as I interview leading scholars about emerging ideas and concepts in animal studies. Each season delves into a unique theme, revealing how concepts intertwine or diverge, and this kind of discussion encourages a deeper reflection about animals and their broader contexts. So far, the podcast has considered themes as wide-ranging as law, politics, sound, the urban, and biosecurity. If you are interested in animals and unpacking the ways we know them, find the Animal Turn podcast wherever you listen.
Oh, Annie is sweet. There's just... She's kind of goofy looking, right? Like if you haven't seen one, you don't really know. But
that's fair.
But just super inquisitive. She loves her milkshakes. She gets insect milkshakes every day. And so, which is a great opportunity for you to watch that like super long tongue of hers come out and eat, but just one of the sweetest. And she's out there, and what I love about them is that their little paws are faced in when they walk. And I don't know, it looks uncomfortable, but also adorable at the same time.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's really sweet. Coconut the sloth.
Aww.
Named because when he came in, he was about the size of a coconut and looked like one. What you don't realize are animals are, we know this, right? But animals are like people in that you're going to have petite individuals and you're going to have, larger statured animals. And so we have two sloths and they are on the opposite end of the spectrum. We have Coconut, who's more petite, and then we have Chewy, who is, full grown, but also, just a really large, she's got a long reach, I think, well over 6 feet if you were to stand and extend her arms up.
That's awesome.
And so she came to us from the Southwick Zoo up in Massachusetts.
No.
Yes, which is cool because I got to work there when I was in high school.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a great relationship with Southwick.
Oh, okay.
I have had two of their keepers plus the person who runs it, Betsy, on the podcast.
Very cool.
One of the keepers in particular, Danny Portier-Larson, she's their head bird keeper there. And I've become incredibly close friends. And she's been on a couple of times and is a huge Southwick's is such a great place.
They're so cool.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, so my involvement there was not as glamorous. I was in high school, and so I worked at the, everything it takes everyone to run a zoo.
Absolutely.
I worked at the concession stands.
Okay, well, I have to tell you, they have some of the best zoo pretzels in the country. I'm just saying. Zoo pretzels are very important.
It is, yes. But it's a great spot, and what they're doing with their program animals is very cool.
Yes.
So, yeah, it was also really nice to have another native Massachusetts person or, counterpart here in St. Louis with us. So,
that's so cool.
But of course, sharks, rays. We have Shark Canyon that has 7 different species of sharks, 2 green sea turtles. We've got some stingrays. What's cool is we have lesser devil rays, which are the smaller versions of manta rays.
Right, yeah.
But there are not a lot of aquariums that are able to keep them. And so we were granted that opportunity very early on. And they are just fantastic. And so
That's
it's
so cool.
beautiful watching them swim. So these guys are filter feeders.
Yep.
And so they just glide. They're beautiful. It's like dancers in the water. And I think what's kind of unique about our space is a lot of times, and you have seen this, I'm sure, when you go to aquariums, the largest viewing panel is always on the side, right? And so you watch the fish swim left to right or right to left. Our largest viewing panels, our viewing opportunities are on the end.
Okay.
So you're watching, and we've got a couple of them because we've got to switch back, but you have the opportunity to watch these animals come like up and over a ridge and straight down at you, which is just a different perspective. And, and you get to watch them glide. And when you've got a 7-foot shark swimming down towards you, it's just a completely different perspective than watching them.
Yeah, I would imagine
swim beside you.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
It's time for interrupting. Interrupting John again.
Yep. Again, just needed to butt in here to say that after the interview, went and experienced it, and it was exactly as described. It's really cool that the group here, the Zooceanarium group, is thinking of new ways to present exhibits and different like angles and stuff, because as Erin said, having a shark coming down over you and at you is something that you really don't see at a lot of aquariums, and it does give you some different perspective. It's, I don't know if terrifying is the right word, because like I wasn't scared. It's awe-inspiring, but I could also see, you know, it gives you the prey experience without the whole threat of, you know, being eaten and stuff. Okay, back to the interview. This is so weird because normally I either do interviews on Zoom or at a place, and this is at a place, but we haven't actually gone through the aquarium yet.
No.
So you're like selling me on this aquarium, and I'm realizing I'm about to have these experiences, and you're really getting me excited.
Oh, good, because maybe I should have talked to you afterwards so that we could have. But it's just, and it's all those kind of little things that go into it, right? When building a space out is how are your animals going to interact? How are you going to care for them while they're there? But then how are the guests going to experience it as well? And so it's, you know, that kind of trying to find that, you know, holy grail of spaces. But it's just a cool space. One of my favorite animals in here, though, is not our sharks or our well, remind me to talk about our turtles later.
Oh, trust me.
Because they're very cool.
Yeah, no. Turtles are a big thing in my world, so we'll get back to that.
Okay, cool.
But yes.
Our very first resident here, though, was blue lobster.
Oh, okay.
Named Lord Stanley.
Nice. That's a good name. Good name. Yeah.
And if you've seen lobsters, they're not traditionally blue.
Right.
And this guy is vibrant, like royal blue.
Nice.
And he is stunning. And he showed up at a restaurant on the Cape in Massachusetts. They open up the box and they see this vibrant blue lobster in there. And the owner's like, no. We're not serving this one. Blue lobsters are 1 in 2 million.
Oh, wow.
It's a unique coloration. It's essentially just a mutation in their color. And you don't see that many of them because a bright blue lobster walking around on the ocean floor is essentially like just walking around with a target on his back.
Sure.
And so Lord Stanley has got the self-defense mechanisms to show that he has made it. He's about, when he arrived, he was about 1.5 pounds. So we estimated about 7 years. Okay. And so he had spent 7 years, you know, like he's also a tough Massachusetts lobster, you know, who's walking around. But he showed up, and it was very important for the owners of the restaurant that he go to an institution that would inspire future ocean conservationists.
Okay.
You know, a lot of times that's not something you think of when you think of a seafood restaurant owner, right?
Right.
But,
yeah.
you know, fishermen are also one of the largest advocates for marine health out there.
And there are many hunters that also push for wildlife
exactly.
conservation.
Yes.
It's a weird thing sometimes.
It's the same thing.
I'm with you on that.
And so it also was coincidentally in the spring of 2019 when the St. Louis Blues were in the Stanley Cup against Boston Bruins. And then the Blues won, and it was huge for the city. And so to show that not all Bostonians were sore losers, they reached out and said, wouldn't it be cool if he could go to St. Louis? The aquarium wasn't built yet. We didn't open until December. So, but we said, absolutely. So I got to fly up there. Our curator at the time thought it would be really funny to send a native Massachusetts person over to go get it. And I was like, this is fine. I speak their language. We'll be good. But it was really great. So I got to go up and get him. He spent the night at New England Aquarium, which was really fun because, he got to spend the night with, in a gallery one of my friends did. So they were really cute. They, when you transport a lobster, TSA doesn't want water in anything, right?
Okay,
and so lobsters can travel outside of water as long as they're cold and, kind of kept damp.
Okay.
So he had a cooler that'll help keep the temperature, right? It had some ice packs, and then they dipped a towel in salt water and kind of wrapped him in it. To be funny, they wrapped him in a Bruins championship towel just for fun. But what was cool was going through TSA pre-check at Logan Airport.
No.
The security guy's like, I'm going to have you open the lid, like, because he doesn't know. I mean,
Right.
so we open the lid. I move the towel. He's like, yes, lobster. Okay, check. And we went. And he had his own seat on Southwest.
Nice.
And so we flew back here, and he was our very first resident, and he is fantastic. And what's really cool about lobsters is as they grow, they need to molt, right? They have to get rid of that shell in order to keep going. And every time he does, it just reminds you how beautifully blue he is, because he comes out with a new shell and it's all clean and he is stunning. And so he has his very own kind of dedicated space up on the second floor, so you can't miss him. But he's just, I don't know, he's just cool,
That's so awesome. And now we're going to take it back to the turtles.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we have 2 green sea turtles, Quasi and Tsunami.
Okay.
Yep,
Good
their
Good
names.
I approve.
So they were both rescued, non-releasable green sea turtles. So Tsunami came in to a rehabilitation facility, and she had been struck by a boat, and it shattered her jaw. And so she went through 2 years of physical therapy to try to rebuild that. And so she was in a rehab space. They don't have huge exhibits like we do here, huge habitats like Shark Canyon. She was in there for 2 years, and it was just deemed that ultimately she was going to need continued physical therapy in order to keep eating. And so we were happy to have her come up here. And so every 2 weeks, she has physical therapy. We take her out. We help her do some jaw stretches that keep that mobility in her jaw going. But she is happy and she is thriving and she is very cool. She's the larger of our 2 green sea turtles. And then we have Quasi, and she's sweet. She's, the smaller one of the 2, again, a boat strike victim. And hers, it paralyzed her 2 hind flippers and also trapped some air under her shell. So she floats a little bit.
Sure.
And so
Bubble butt.
Yeah. So this one's a little different than bubble butt. Yeah. And I don't really know what the 2 differences are, but I know that there is a difference.
Okay.
And so, but yeah, she kind of, so when she sleeps, her little bum floats up in the air, but we help her by putting a really light weight on her carapace. And so that's how you can also easily tell. If you can't quite tell by the size, if they're not right next to each other, you look for the one that has the little, kind of black patch up on the top of it. And she cruises around Shark Canyon. I mean, you would have no idea that she's only working with those 2 front flippers. And so they're really great, and you've got multiple opportunities to see them. And they're in there with our sharks, and our rays. We have a Goliath grouper, a huge Goliath grouper. And there are times where you come in the morning and your sea turtles are sitting on the bottom next to our nurse shark, who's snuggling up against our zebra shark, who's like, right next to one of our Atlantic stingrays. And it's just adorable. And you're like, oh, sharks are so scary, and they're all like pig piled on top of each other.
Shark cuddle puddle.
Exactly. It's so cute.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. So we're really fortunate to be able to have them, and really honored to be able to continue to care for them. But giving them an opportunity, like, these animals would not survive on their own, but they have so much, to offer. We've got them here. They're going to live out their lives, which could be a very long time. We hope, Lord Stanley and Tsunami and Quasi are all here well past any of us are. But you're here in St. Louis and you have the opportunity to see them and, get closer than you would even if you, went down to a vacation in Florida.
Right. Yeah. And they're not going to eat any plastic bags.
No, exactly.
So,
yes.
Good.
Excellent.
Yeah, no. I've reached this thing recently where, so a lot of people, on Instagram and stuff come at me about captivity. The anti-captivity crowd, they exist. We know this. And for the longest time, I was very willing to answer everything and willing to try and talk through stuff. And I've kind of realized there are people who are willing to listen, but then it's also just become like another branch of the anti-science thing that we're going through in so many ways in the world right now. And once I realized that, it really helped me realize, there are times to engage and there are times to disengage quickly for my own mental health.
Right.
I don't understand the anti-science crowd in general, but I love pointing out things like, not only would these turtles be dead, but hypothetically, if they weren't, it's not like the ocean is a super great place right now. Turtles aren't doing well.
No, not a lot are. Yeah, and so you want different sides of the argument, right? Because it helps keep both sides honest.
Yes.
You want to constantly make sure that you are doing the best that you can for these animals, and expanding your growth and all of that. But yeah, the ocean it's sharks, for example. Everyone fears them, right? There was a movie that came out a couple of years ago. Maybe you heard of it. Jaws.
Something like that.
Something like that. I think
Jaws,
Teeth, maybe.
Yeah.
And so everybody is afraid of them. And, in some instances, rightly so. These animals are huge.
Sure.
But there are about 500 species of sharks swimming around in the ocean, and 250 of them get no larger than 3 feet when they're full grown.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you are taller than a shark when you were in first grade for half of the species that are out there.
Right.
And even for the other ones, they can get 25 feet long. Whale sharks are the size of a school bus.
Yeah, it's
like they're
amazing
huge,
to see.
60 feet. But you've got them, like we're overfishing at such capacities that every 19 seconds there's like a number of sharks that are killed, like every 19 seconds. So like for the duration of this podcast, like we have wiped out every shark in Shark Canyon multiple times.
Right.
Like, and it's
not us personally,
not us personally, not these sharks here. Just as an example. But
no, absolutely.
It's so scary when you think about it that we have the power. If we have the power to do that, what could we do if we shifted it in the other direction? You know? There is so much plastic out there. There is so much just debris. And I think it's one of those things that's kind of out of sight, out of mind. So aquariums, and zoos and other institutions are hugely important because it helps us remind us that all of our actions have consequences, right? Really early on, we did a river cleanup around here. And we were picking up trash from Colorado that had made it over here. And we know that any trash that makes it here is going straight down the Mississippi and out to the Gulf. And you're like, if you can get a plastic bag from, Colorado over to St. Louis just by Riverway, we're moving a lot of stuff around.
Yeah.
And so it was it was a really sobering experience for a lot of people. It's just like, yes, I need to throw this away. I need to make sure I'm using my blue bin. I need to make sure that and the hard part is it can get almost overwhelming, trying to make sure you're being responsible.
Yeah.
But you don't need one person doing a million things perfectly. You need a million people doing one thing well. And you're just going to have a bigger impact. So.
Absolutely. I think that's super important. And speaking of conservation, I noticed something that I thought was pretty cool when I came in here, which is, aquariums cost money to go into, and rightly so. This ain't cheap. But y'all have a free area, and it's the conservation themed area that seemed to be kids focused from the little bit that I saw. Tell me about that and what the idea was behind that, because I think that is so cool.
Absolutely, yeah. So the aquarium has a nonprofit partner, the St. Louis Aquarium Foundation. And through that, the mission is to kind of raise awareness over your watershed and your impacts on water, right? And so we have the Conservation and Education Center located, kind of inside Union Station, but there's no admission to it. Come on in. It's designed for kids, but for kids of all ages, right? But if you've got families and your little kid wants to run over and color a fish and then scan it and watch it pop up onto a screen, how cool of an experience is that? And so they can do that here. They can also learn more about their watershed. If we were to go out and do that map, and growing up in Massachusetts, my watershed was very small. Here in St. Louis, the Mississippi watershed is 2/3 of the country.
Right.
Literally all of that water ends up draining at some point into the Mississippi River and out into the Gulf. And that's unbelievable. So, that your impact in one particular area can also impact somebody, what feels like forever away, hours of drives away. And so there's that, there's an opportunity. And then you go well, what can I do? There are quizzes in here so you can learn, little steps. If you're just starting out, maybe consider, shifting to recycling or bringing bring a reusable water bottle. Easy task, but something that everyone can do.
Yep.
But then there are different games in here and different just opportunities to learn a little bit more about steps that you can take that will better impact our water environment, because you're going to go right into the aquarium and see all of these amazing animals that would be directly impacted by your actions.
I love it. That's such a
So.
cool thing. And I love that. I love that that area is free. I think that is so cool.
Yeah.
I do not at all have a problem with, charging admission for things. It's how the world works. But having that free area is really, really cool.
It's just nice. Yeah.
I dig it. So was there anything else that you wanted to tell me about the aquarium?
Oh my gosh, there is so much. But, I think the biggest thing for the aquarium is in kind of creating that next generation of people that care about water and that are going to take those steps to protect it. And so giving them those opportunities to experience, animals in completely different ways is going to change that perspective. So we're hoping to create a small army and then a larger army of people that just care about the ocean and about the rivers and about ultimately our planet and ourselves, right? And so we would hope that if anyone is ever in the St. Louis area, you swing on in and see for yourself exactly what it looks like.
Love it. And then are there any conservation organizations you'd like to give a shout out to?
Well, I would have to immediately give one out to the St. Louis Aquarium Foundation for doing, some pretty amazing work out there. We did have a really great relationship with the Research Turtle Rehabilitation Center down in Jekyll Island.
Okay,
so
yeah.
that's where Quasi and Tsunami came from.
Nice.
So big shout out to them for that. And Turtles Fly 2, which was an organization that helped fly these turtles right on up here. So just a really great job for that. But the list is so long, right? Anybody who's focusing on it, big shout out to St. Louis Zoo, right? Our neighbors right next door doing amazing things for the terrestrial animals. But yeah, take a look at the St. Louis Aquarium Foundation website.
It's really cool that, you guys found each other since their name is St. Louis Aquarium Foundation. You guys are the St. Louis Aquarium. That's
I know. It was
very
crazy.
Fortuitous.
Yeah. We it was, a social and they had you line up by name.
Makes sense.
And we just happened to bump into each other.
Makes sense. I like it. It's time now, don't you know? We've come to the end of the show. But there's one tale left to go. You're gonna laugh and say, oh no. It's time for the Rossifari poop story.
All right. Do you know that first seal poop smells like broccoli? It's the weirdest thing. That's what my brain thinks of.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah. So, every morning you're going to go out when we brought our first seals in. We're going to go out and we're going to hose off the deck. The cool thing about first seals is that females are quite small, but the males are not. They're like 2 to 3 times the size of it. You're getting like a 300-pound male. So when it's just the females hanging out in the corner, the mess isn't so much. But then when you got to go clean up after the big guy, you just turn the power hose on high and right into the water.
Hose and broccoli.
So, yep, exactly. Yeah. But I'm an animal person, so it's not really gross to me. Like I can eat broccoli just fine.
That makes sense. Cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This has been an absolute
No,
blast.
thanks for coming in. I'm so glad we were able to connect on your tour here.
Yeah. So there you have it, folks. An absolutely awesome interview with an absolutely awesome person at an awesome new aquarium. How exciting is that? And I have to tell you, this place is really cool. There are a lot of interactive things going on. They have some ambassador animals. You heard about some of them, but when I did my tour, I got to see a really adorable possum that is trained for pouch checks and stuff, and it was really cute and really cool to watch that. We already talked a little bit about the doctor fish and some of that kind of stuff, but there's also an area where you can feed some turtles and, the standard touch pools, touching the starfish and all that kind of stuff. But they have some pretty cool things with anemones and stuff that you don't see at, all the aquariums. So, it's really cool. I also got to see something that I had wanted to see for a long time. I've spent some time with a giant Pacific octopus, both behind the scenes and just, lots of times in front of the glass watching them be awesome. And I have seen all of those cool octopus behaviors that you hear about, from the color changing to the way they swim to being, having suction cups, suctioning you and all the cool things. But I'd never seen one get really small and fit through a really tiny space because, they're invertebrates and they can do that. And they can fit through any space that their beak can fit through, basically. And I got to see that happen at the St. Louis Aquarium, and it's really, really, really cool. And that wasn't like a cool special behind the scenes thing. The octopus was just doing the thing, and they have an exhibit set up that can demonstrate that behavior because, again, new aquarium, awesome design work, a lot of thought went into all of it. I love it. It is such a cool place. My only regret is that because I spent a lot of time, at the aquarium doing aquarium things, I didn't get to do the whole in the sky above the aquarium thing. The ropes course looked awesome. Maybe the next time that I'm going through St. Louis, right? But yeah, so I hope y'all enjoyed that. And as you can tell, I have been just completely shot out of a cannon for this entire intro and outro. And thanks for sticking with me on that. I know your speed setting has not been bumped up to plus 25%. John's just hyper tonight. Sorry about that. But I do love you all. I'm so grateful that you're here. I love this community that we have built. I'm especially thankful to Laura Shank, my Red Panda level patron, but also to all of my patrons and to all of my non-patron listeners, to those of you who send the news, to those of you who like things on Instagram, to those of you who never, ever, ever reach out, and I don't even know that you're there, but then I see the stats and I realize that you are, and it warms the cockles of my heart. Y'all, it even warms the sub-cockles of my heart. I appreciate y'all so much, so much, so much. And I think I'm just rambling now, so I'm going to say, hey, don't forget, the word credits backwards is Steiderk. The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Vesley-Gross. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.